he can win this election. But mostly, he's going to be doing a favor to me. Because you see, I want that seat back. That was my seat. Okay? That was my seat. You gotta help me get him elected to my seat. You know, I don't want all these other people going up that seat. You know, Charles can do a better job. So here we go.
Good morning, everybody, and aloha! Well, thank you all very much for joining us here on a beautiful, if it'll be a wet Hawaiian morning. And thank you, Pat Saiki, for coming back, leading our party. And yes, Pat, we are going to take back your seat this fall. Friends, I appreciate every one of you coming out here and being motivated and excited to bring about change here in Hawaii government and politics. I want to thank all of the candidates for running and deciding to step up. But there's also one person who hasn't been introduced yet on my particular campaign team that I want to make sure I introduce to all of you, and that's my best friend, my top advisor, the love of my life, and that's my wife, Stacy. Now, fellow Republicans, for me, this decision to run for Hawaii's first congressional district was not an easy one. Although I had previously held this seat, this is something that took a lot of thought, a lot of discussion, a little bit of negotiation with my wife, and considerable amount of prayer. But I want to share with all of you one of the many things that helped push me to finally decide that it was the right thing to do, that we need to have new representation in Washington, D.C., and for us here in Hawaii. For me, something came up this past January. And this past January, Robert Gates, who had served as President Obama's Secretary of Defense, published his memoirs. Secretary Gates, in his memoirs, it was called Duty, wrote that back in 2009, as President Obama's Defense Secretary, he was privy to and participated in the discussions to send the so-called mini-surge of American soldiers into Afghanistan. He said he was troubled in his memoirs that the President decided to send 30,000 additional American soldiers into harm's way, not necessarily because he believed that was the right thing to do, but more because he was concerned about the so-called political optics, that it would make the President look so-called weak if he didn't decide to send additional forces into combat. And so the President decided to send 30,000 additional soldiers to go fight in Afghanistan. During the years of the American mini-surge from 2010 to 2012, 1,200 of our American soldiers did not come home. They made the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our nation. For me, this is extraordinarily personal. Not only because I think it's a remarkable tragedy to send American soldiers into harm's way and to ask them to make the ultimate sacrifice for political optics, but it is also troubling to me because, you see, I was one of those 30,000 soldiers asked to surge into the country in Afghanistan during this time frame. This is exactly what is wrong with government and politics today, at all levels, whether it's at Honolulu, Hawaii, the state capitol, or the United States Congress. Too much of politics today is based on so-called political optics, trying to score quick, cheap, partisan political points, and not focusing on what's really troubling average residents and average citizens in our country. That it's more important to make sure you get that quick soundbite in the 24/7 news channels than it is to actually make a real, meaningful difference in our government, our community, and our society. That's why I've decided to once again run for public office, because I believe this is wrong and we need to change it. Now friends, I want all of you to know that if I am privileged to earn your support, to earn the support of the people of Hawaii, that the focus of my term in office will be on 3 top priorities. Priority number 1, 2, and 3 for me are jobs, jobs, and jobs. For too many of our fellow residents here in Hawaii, those who want a job all too often find it too difficult to find. For those who do have a job, especially in Hawaii, with the highest underemployment rate in our nation, when you can find a job, it is too often a part-time job. And for those who are fortunate to have a part-time job, again, especially here in Hawaii, all too often they are caught between an ever-increasingly high cost of living and oppressive taxes and regulation, making it very difficult to make ends meet here in Hawaii. And so what we need to do to address this, what we must do to fix it, number 1, we need to get our fiscal house in order. We cannot continue to run $17 trillion in national debt and add $800 billion a year. And that's why when I was in Congress, the very first bill I co-sponsored was the Balanced Budget Amendment, and the first bill I will co-sponsor when I get elected is a Balanced Budget Amendment to bring our fiscal house into order. Friends, that is also why I have been a long-time champion of expanding trade and commerce. I actually support the President's proposal called the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which he announced in the State of the Union address earlier this year, to expand trade in the Asia-Pacific region. And the one state that is going to benefit the most from that expansion of trade in the Asia-Pacific region is Hawaii. Unfortunately, this proposal has been stalled in Congress, interestingly enough, by 2 individuals. One who goes by the name Harry Reid and another who goes by the name Nancy Pelosi. If I get elected to Congress, we're going to overcome that. We're going to expand that trade in the Asia-Pacific region. We're going to benefit jobs here in Hawaii. And friends, we've got to do something about fixing this overly oppressive regulatory framework that is gumming up the works in job creation. And the single biggest regulatory hurdle we have to overcome is Obamacare. And I want all of you, forget about what's going on the mainland, forget about the disastrous rollout of the Affordable Care Act on the mainland. Just concentrate on what's going on with Obamacare in our island state of Hawaii. We've appropriated over $200 million for this program, and signed up only about 8,000 individuals. On a per capita basis, this is the single most expensive program in the United States of America. Even worse, a recent study that was done by the McKinsey group estimated that almost 75% of the people who signed up for Obamacare were already insured. And oftentimes the only reason they needed to sign up for Obamacare was because Obamacare caused them to lose their health insurance, thereby requiring them to get Obamacare. Even more interesting for us here in Hawaii, or more tragic, is that this program is estimated to cost us $15 million a year in additional appropriations just to try and maintain this program. Indeed, for the average Hawaii resident, the only thing the average Hawaii resident has seen of Obamacare is a dramatic increase in the cost of health insurance for the average resident here in Hawaii. Now, I believe at my core philosophy is that government should work to make the lives of average people better. And Obamacare clearly fails that very simple and basic standard. That's why we need to change it. That's why I'm trying to get elected to Congress, so we can rework this program, so we can actually put in reforms that will address the lives of average Americans and make their lives better. Things like medical malpractice tort reform, things like allowing the interstate sale of health insurance, things like expanding medical savings accounts to give individuals the ability to make their own healthcare decisions. That's the right way to fix health insurance in America, not more regulation, not this Affordable Care Act disaster. That's what But friends, in order to do all of these things, we have to win. We have to win. What's at stake for us this coming fall is that we have a very clear choice in Hawaii's 1st Congressional District. Of all the candidates who are running, myself and I think there are, 8 I don't know, it changes every day, I think 7, 8, 9 other Democrats running for the seat, is that I'm the only candidate running for this congressional district seat who will enter the U.S. House as a sophomore in the majority. Every other one of the Democrats will be a freshman in the minority. Between being a sophomore in the majority and a freshman in the minority. For us here in Hawaii, with Senator Inoue and Senator Kaka having left Hawaii's congressional delegation, with the U.S. House most likely reigning control of the Republicans, and the U.S. Senate probably also going to be controlled by the GOP come November, it would be wrong for Hawaii to send all 4 of our congressional delegates into the minority. We have to make sure that somebody from Hawaii has a stake in the majority caucus to represent us. That's my campaign can deliver. Now friends, we have 5.5 months to go. 5.5 months to make a huge difference in my race, the race for governor with Djou, Cam Cavasso's campaign for the Senate, for all of these great candidates you have around you here for the state legislature. 5.5 months. Now I know as Republicans, sometimes it seems impossible, that it can seem extraordinarily difficult for us to make the change that we know our community and our society needs to make. How important it is to build a 2-party democracy here in Hawaii, yet the old boy network in the machine seems to constantly grind it down and snuff out that hope of a 2-party democracy in our state. What I want to share with all of you is that you don't need to lose hope, that we can do this and we will make this difference. And I want to share with you an incident that occurred to me when I served overseas in Afghanistan. You know, one of the most profound things I experienced in Afghanistan was the first day of school. You see, the first day of school is a military operation. And when I was serving with the Army over there, we had to gear up, get ready for battle on the first day of school. Why? Because the Taliban, these radical Islamists who have this perverted vision of Islam, viewed schools as poisoning the minds of young children. They do horrible things, such as teach girls how to read and to write. And as a consequence of that, the Taliban would attack schools on opening day of school to prevent parents from bringing their children to school. When I say attack, I'm not talking picket lines. I'm talking attack with bullets, attack with grenades. They would affirmatively go out of their way to try and kill young children and their parents from going to school, to stop them, to thwart this so-called poisonous Western influence. Now for me, as an American soldier, I of course put on my body armor, got into the armored vehicles, we surrounded the schools, we were gearing up to protect the children and their parents when they came to school. But what was going through my head was, who the heck's going to come to school? My good gosh, I mean, you know, if it rains too hard back here in my home country, kids don't go to school if it rains, right? Who's going to go to school if the bullets and grenades are flying, if their kids might actually get killed? But what shocked me in Afghanistan was the parents still came with their children. That despite the threat of dying, of bullets, of grenades, of a military attack, the kids and the parents still came. And I remember going up to one of the peasant farmers who was bringing his children, his sons and his daughters, to school. And through a translator, I asked him, why? Why do you risk your life? Why do you risk your children's life to come here to school? This peasant was illiterate. In Afghanistan, 75% of the people do not know how to read or write. In Kandahar province, where I served, it was 85% of the adults did not know how to read or to write. Through a translator, this illiterate Afghan peasant turned to me and he said, Mr. American, you know, I've lived through very terrible times. From the overthrow of the monarchy, to the communist revolution, to the Soviet invasion, to the Taliban's rise, to the Civil War, and to now you Americans. I have lost hope for myself and my future. But if I have any chance to give my children a better future than what I've had, if I have any chance to make my village a better place tomorrow than it is today, if I have any chance that Afghanistan's future is not going to look like its past, it is going to come from my children, my sons and my daughters, learning how to read and to write. And Mr. American, if I have to take a bullet to give my children hope, that is a worthwhile exchange. I share this with all of you because I believe to my core that we are Americans. We have the capacity to change and change for the better. That we have it within ourselves and in this beautiful document called the Constitution of the United States of America to build a better society, build a better community, build a better America. And we have this chance and we have this opportunity, and no one is going to take a bullet, shoot a bullet at you. No one is going to throw a grenade at you. No one is going to attempt to kill you. All that it requires to find that hope that exists with all of us in our community, in our Hawaii, and in our America, is for us in the next 5.5 months to get organized, to stay focused, to make sure that our family, our friends, and our neighbors vote, and vote for change, and change the way our government operates. That is what this election is all about.